So many people have arrived from all over. So many people unexpectedly, not planned for, sort of almost reactive because that original prayer call was so strong.
Well, for me, it's, this is all Indian country, it's always been to pay respect for each other. That's why I'm here.
I'm just amazed of how many people are here. I've only seen Facebook photos. I've only seen, certain things, but I never expected it to be this large, and this makes my heart happy.
I wasn't sure what I was going to see, and it's beautiful and it's terrible, both at the same time.
What's going on here is people are standing up to this company that thinks they can just push their pipeline anywhere they want.
So how many people are here?
I say 2,000 to 3,000 people right now, and I think our peak at one time was 10,000 people in camp.
And are you expecting more people coming?
God, I hope so.
Where they're drilling is core land, but it's also surrounded by areas that we call, all of it actually, taken land. So it's in dispute. It's been in dispute for a long, long time.
They put razor wire around the mountain. It goes up, and they ended up putting it all up on top of the mountain.
Who owns that land?
The tribe.
If we revert back to an understanding of how to negotiate what that means, it means that those conversations have to continue, and the process by which those conversations have happened from then until now have to be reviewed.
It's become more than just about the pipeline that's going to pollute the water.
And the way that it seems like they're acting towards the journalists, towards the protesters, and we're talking about, First Amendment rights, First Amendment right to assembly, First Amendment right to the press, essentially First Amendment right to freedom of religion.
I had to put you.
And these are being just torn apart and just ripped to shreds.
Yeah, it's all the money. They don't think about what you're destroying the land, the earth, the air.
If you follow the money, what it costs to have that many police from that many different states with that much equipment, you'll find out what's behind an ability to do that. It has to come from a number of places. There are only so many funding sources for law enforcement agencies and their officers to get that training and to get that equipment.
We're all trying to protect the land here and the water and everything.
Hello.
This is their home, and they're being forced back.
Our best scenario is to keep a very prayerful space and keep inviting our relatives to join us in that space. That's our best scenario. To ask for that space that says we have some questions. We're not clear that this is good for us or good for our future, good for our grandchildren, good for generations to come. We're just asking to defend the right to have water and defend the right to have that conversation, but we're going to try and do it in a peaceful, prayerful manner. That's our intention. That are the words that you'll see. That is what Standing Rock has been saying all along.
So that's why we are here, to stand up and say we will not take it. You cannot just push this down our throat.
Right before your very eyes, ladies and gentlemen, history will be made today. Untold investments will be determined by today's experiment, fiat experimentum in corpore vitae. One name will live on in history as synonymous with America's stake in humane ideals and progress. The propaganda value to the company found safer utility should warrant yours truly a sizable piece of the action. Believe it or not, crazy as it seems, you will see two grown men, in the interests of science and progressive technology, subject themselves to be bound head to toe to the folding metal chairs you see before you. Bound, ladies and gentlemen, with electrical wiring, to which will be attached exposed electrodes or contact plates covered with a layer of sponge. The plates themselves being about the size of a silver dollar, which I might add will make picturesque souvenirs. Attached according to firm loyalty to a Westinghouse AC and Edison DC dynamo, respectively. The currents will course through the body of each company's man as the voltage is increased, volt by volt without sham, until one or the other bolts the first ouch, signifying victory. Both COs have agreed to house stakes. The probability of demise will be held to an even 10%, for you'll see, demise is possible by the juice alone. I can safely promise you, ladies and gentlemen, a high old time with lots of excitement. The sponsors will now make their opening remarks.
South on 89 towards the town of Meyer, heading to the destination of Echo Lake to meet Trevor Thomas, also known as 00. He's finished his Tahoe Rim Trail loop. Last night, Trevor and Tennille spent at Echo Peak, and they are hiking down to Echo Lake as we speak.
When you're out on the trail and you're hiking, how do you see? Do you see?
Oh, it's easy. I don't. I do what's called echolocation. I'm pretty much like a human bat. So I use the ambient sounds from the environment, and that will give me a basic picture, not like a photograph, but it'll give me an idea of my environment, whether I'm standing on a cliff, whether I'm in an open clearing. I have what's called atypical central serous chorioretinopathy. In layman's terms, your eye is a camera. One day, my autoimmune system woke up and targeted the macula, which is the film if it wasn't a camera, targeted it as a foreign body and attacked it and killed it over a period of 8 months. And the macula, there's no stem cell that's going to fix it. There is no transplant that's going to do it. Every guide dog school in the country turned me down because of who I am and what I do.
Because they thought you were nuts.
They thought I was crazy and they thought I was reckless.
Yeah.
And then there was the one, Guide Dogs for the Blind, that said, nobody's ever done what you want to do. And I've heard that before too. But the big thing was they said, we want to try.
Awesome.
And so that was, that's another barrier broken down. I choose to do what I do for 2 reasons. Number one, self-accomplishment. Ultimately, I have goals. I want to achieve my goals. But I also bloody myself on rocks to show the sighted world that blindness and severe visual impairment is not a death sentence. You can achieve, whatever it is that you set your mind to. Sure, there are some things that I had to let go, but there are so many other things that I can do. I'm going to do them exceptionally well. And I find it's a need to show young blind kids, because they haven't been subjugated by society. They have hope, they have dreams, and they haven't heard no so many times that they just take their lot in life. You know, I have to show them that somebody is going to say no, but you don't have to listen.
That's right.
People have asked me that question a lot. You know, would you get your sight back? You know, if somebody said, here's the magic cure, would you take it? If you would ask me that maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah. Anymore, I'd have to say no.
Why?
I'm comfortable with who I am. I've come to grips with things. I like who I am. The way I look at it, would life be easier if I could see? Sure. I could jump in my car and go to the convenience store if I needed to. The other side of the coin, would it be more rewarding? I don't think so.
In the womb of time, they were wolves. Canine warriors silently tracking Chukchi tribesmen as they both hunted the same reindeer in the Siberian Arctic of Siberian wilderness. 110 years ago, this highway of the North led dogs and mushers to the 1898 goldfields in the Klondike. 110 years ago, men froze, dogs died. Today, they team with man and run as Yukon Quest International Sled Dogs. For the Yukon Quest, 10 dogs were flown from Soamesville, Maine to Fairbanks, Alaska. These dogs are part of a nonprofit program working with at-risk youth called Pulling Together.
About these cold temperatures we have.
It's cold. We have to put some jackets. That's why we put jacket on the dogs to protect them from the cold.
Mushers carry mandatory equipment, food and supplies at all times. After 500 miles into the Yukon Quest, Dawson City, Yukon, the midpoint is a mandatory 36-hour rest stop.
The first couple of days was brutal. We started out, I think it was 50 below. And my first camp out on Birch Creek, my thermometer on my sled was maxed out at 60. Now, I don't know how cold it was, but as cold as I've ever been.
How do the dogs handle that kind of cold?
Oh, they're tougher than I am. No, they really don't have a problem with it. You know, it's uncomfortable for them, so you make sure you have dog coats and sheet protectors.
There are 8 checkpoints along the 1,000-mile trail, some of which consist of 6 to 8 hour mandatory rests. Communities along the trail still show their support by providing meals and opening centers and cabins at each checkpoint along the way. Teams run and rest around the clock. Dog internal clocks determine work hours, not the wristwatch. At rest stops, dogs' booties are removed. Mushers cook the next meal. Dogs are fed. But feet are as important as stomachs, and mushers check and recheck their dog's feet, not overlooking coat, harnesses, and attitude. And if lucky, all sleep. As a lower 48er, it was difficult for us to keep up with the mushers, even with 4-wheel drive and extra fuel tanks. The Yukon Quest is a true test of human and canine endurance and interdependence. Survival depends on a mutual, sometimes wordless bond between human and dog.
My name's Carl Carlson, and I've got multiple myeloma and amyloidosis, and which are real rare, nasty, sneaky diseases. And every once in a while you lose some bone mass. And I lost a lot of mass. And I was having I just slept a really good sleep, and I woke up, but I hadn't moved all night, and my bones or something stretched out of place, and I was in extreme pain. And so what I usually do when I'm in extreme pain, I live out in the country, I just scream. I just start screaming for a while, and pretty soon I'll find a direction. And usually, I mean, of course, I'd love to go to laughter, and I try to stay away from sadness. But at this particular time, I just changed to singing, and I was singing peyote songs, and it was very soothing. And then all of it, suddenly, I was transported. This is in midday, but I've had my eyes closed, and it was like a ring of fire around my waist because my nerves had been detached or bent or cut or something. And this vision came to me, and I was in this room, and it's kind of a nebulous room, and Jesus was in there, or a Jesus-looking guy, except he had logging boots on, and his robe was kind of crusty, and they were all playing cards. And one guy looked like Mohammed, one guy looked like Saint Michael. It looked like some Avatar guys, and they all looked up when I came in, and they go, Carl, your prayers suck. They're stupid. They were laughing, and I said, well, what's wrong with them? I said, I thought they were pretty good. I said, I apologize for the swearing, and they go, no, we don't care about swearing. I said, your basic premise is that if you ask us, we're going to fix your problems, and we are not going to fix your problems. We've done that numerous times. What we will do, though, is we will sit with you. We will commune with you. We will be with you for all the time, and we won't abandon you. And maybe we'll give you some strength to endure it, but we don't fix stuff anymore. We're not in that business, And they said, other than that, you're doing good, and we can't tell you about your mission, and I was back here. And then the other night, I had this incredible dream. Of course, I think they're all incredible if I'm going to tell them to you.
Breathing cycle consists from 3 components: inhale, hold, exhale. Gently find out the tension in his calf and start hurting him. 9, halfway, 11. Breathe through this, breathe through the pain. In the same time, when you roll towards his head, you both inhale.
You all know that Sam has had a lot of difficulties with his heart over the past year. And he really attributes the fact that he's still here to Sergei's breathing techniques. So, just like to say that we thank you.
Well, first of all, there's no my techniques. They belong to Sam just as well as me. We're breathing now with a long breath, top of the head in, trying to get the flow. Now, you get behind your partner, and first with one foot, with one side, gently find out the tension in his calf and start hurting him. Again, carefully, gently. You are delivering the level of stress, level of tension, level of pain, which he cannot yet control. What his goal is more and more interesting. He's trying to minimize level of pain by breathing. Very interesting point. It works different for different people, so you try both. The higher level of tension, the higher level of pain, the more shallow and more short your breathing becomes. When you relax, you breathe slowly deep. You have tension, pain. What happened to him now? He shut down instantly. Try not to shut down. Your partner will give you manageable level of pain. You try to breathe through that pain. The partner behind had to be responsible. If he started breathing sharply, nose in, mouth out. And once pain starts going away, slow down your breath, you're adjusted to it. I'm holding with the same force. His breathing becomes normal, I'm giving him a little more. Nose in, mouth out. So what he's doing, he is helping himself to relax that muscle. And you can use different part of your foot. Heel, ball, edge, toes, doesn't matter. Use short breathing through the movement exercise. And we'll pick up the simplest one, the push-ups. Okay? The goal is not to give up when you feel weak. So, get on the push-up position, not right away. And whenever you feel tension in the body, register it. Because you will have it more or less. One tip, before you even start doing your push-ups, minimize tension in your body. Okay? Whatever position you will take, all the way up, halfway down, all the way down. Now, we don't lay down, right? Okay? Minimize tension. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, halfway, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You train, how many times you wrote down? 20 hours a week? You did 11 push-ups. Come on. Now, it's much different slowly.
Breathing under stress and duress, having a blade or a weapon come out, or a situation where you're not familiar with the person, a real aggressive situation. And I understand the concept of using the breath to kind of control yourself. How do you do that? How do you prep to get to that point?
You can exercise different source of stress, different level of stress in a training. You can introduce a training blade, training gun, one opponent, multiple opponent, ground work, standard work, grappling work, punching, kicking, no rules. Again, nature of the stress, source of the stress will be different. Your own reaction will be very similar. Different in what level, but very similar psychologically, physiologically. And if you can manage those right, if you know how to manage those,
This is the new structure, endangered by those gigantic limbs up above that we built under without thinking about it.
I mean, when he's actually makes the cut and stuff swings, he'll be probably just tie it off and get out of the way. You understand what we're doing? Yeah. So 2 blocks. One goes up through the main block to the secondary block. The secondary block will get moved on for each cut. Something could happen and it can come out or off, and then it can flip and go anywhere, including where you are. It will definitely kill you. So that's when you want to be out of the way.
line set up. Like, I want it to come back towards you, but I also want it to run.
So pile some line down by your feet.
And oh yeah, don't let it get tangled in, don't let it tangle in your feet.
Hold on your left hand. You can lead it out and probably just grab the end of that limb with your hand.
physical world is also important, the eternal world is also important. That is what we call the Sakar and the Nirakar. But the journey will stem from what? From a lower point to a higher point, you know. Just like the flow of knowledge will come from a higher point to a lower point. In the same way, our journey, like if you are receiving something, then that will uplift us. No? So that's why our journey is from the Sakar to the Nirakar. It cannot happen the opposite way. You know, you cannot understand the Nirakar and then you understand the Sakar. You have to understand the Sakar, the world, your place in it, you know, how the worldly system works. Then only you can transcend. So that's the journey every individual takes.
A congregation based on harmony, because harmony is very, very important. In this congregation, we talk about spirituality because spirituality unites us. We are one in the spirit. And all the masters of different religion, they spoke about the universal truth. In our scriptures, it has been said, Ekam Sat Vipara Bahuda Vadanti. It means truth is one, It has been defined, it has been explained by various saints into various languages. But the universal phenomena, the empirical, remains the same. For example, if you take water from Ganges, you take water from Mississippi River, you take water from Volga, you bring water from Mekong River, any river of the world, and we analyze the contents of the water. When we scientifically analyze the contents of the water, we come to know that every molecule of that water contains 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen. That makes 1 molecule of water. Hydrogen and oxygen, they are basically empirical. In the same way, we may be a Sikh, we may be a Christian, we may be a Muslim, but the essence is the same. And we should all come together to help mankind.